With the shipwreck of a boat carrying hundreds of migrants, including many children off the coast of Greece, continues to dominate headlines today as Europe is criticised for its policies. Let's get a sense of the headlines around the world. Our press reviewer, Diptyka Laron, is here to take a look.
Well, Gavin, the Greek daily Tania today looks at what it calls the dramatic testimonies of survivors aboard that fishing trawler. Including, as you said, many children who were also on board that vessel. Rumors continuing to abound about the victims on the boat before the wreck, about the missing captain, and about reported fights on board the ship between the refugees. Another Greek paper today wonders if that crisis could have been avoided. That's what Avgi, this Greek daily, asks here in this article. It notes that, for instance, for some experts, Greek officials should have insisted on helping the migrants despite the captain of the boat refusing help.
It's interesting. I've been on some of these charity migrant boats in the past in the middle of the Mediterranean off the coast of Libya, and they were criticised for being effectively taxi services for migrants. But at the same time, there's a lot of focus today in the press about the EU and Europe's responsibility for this crisis.
That's right, and it's mainly coming from the European papers. Let's show you Le Soir, which is a Belgian paper here. You can see here talking about how Europe has been criticized for its role in these repeated migrant drownings on the Mediterranean Sea. And in this editorial today here, the editor of Le Soir really debunks the idea of Europe being a fortress, a fortified Europe. This editor reminding EU leaders that despite their efforts to collude with third parties like Libya and Tunisia, often from where these migrants board these boats in order to discourage migrants from coming to Europe. They say despite all of this, it will not sway these migrants in their determination to reach European shores. No wall is too big for these people who are fleeing war, famine and persecution, and who are seeking a basic human right, that is international protection. You also have La Croix, which is a French paper here, which says that they were really trapped at sea, those migrants, also underlining the fact that they were victims of these powerful people smuggling groups who organize these clandestine journeys. The editor of La Croix today in this article here writes that it's inaccurate to call it a tragedy because a tragedy implies that we feel like we can do nothing to help the situation. In this case, we are not powerless. If there's one silver lining from this terrible disaster, the paper says, it's that it has shed light on the causes and the sort of people behind it, the immorality of smugglers, the cynicism of authoritarian regimes, and indeed the indifference of Western governments.
There's a political storm going on right now in the UK, and all of the British dailies seem to be reacting to this parliamentary committee report delivered this unprecedented, scathing criticism of Boris Johnson's conduct in misleading Parliament as Prime Minister.
Yeah, it's what one paper has called an historic admonishment of Boris Johnson. In a nutshell, he lied. That's what the papers say. He lied to Parliament when he said pandemic rules were followed at all times, despite those revelations about illegal lockdown parties held at Downing Street. As you see here, the Daily Mirror calling him a liar, basically. That report from that parliamentary committee also called for a 90-day suspension of Boris Johnson from Parliament, which he avoided, of course, by resigning last week. Liar, the Daily Mirror says, calling this report really judgment day for Boris Johnson. For the Daily Star, another British daily, the tabloid here says, it's official, Pinocchio is an absolute lying wazzock. I don't know what that word is. Maybe you can help me, Gavin. I'm not sure what a wazzock is, but it doesn't sound like it's a compliment at all. Johnson finds a little bit of support, though, from the Daily Express. This is a more conservative paper, which really slams what it calls the most spiteful stitch-up in the history of politics, accusing, quote, mean-spirited and mediocre MPs of destroying the reputation of Boris Johnson, who, after all, the paper says, delivered Brexit, led the country through COVID, and united the free world in support of Ukraine.
Wozak, see idiot, Wally, I think is the best definition. The Parisian, the French paper today, has an exclusive. It talks about the world's first successful in-utero operation taking place 8 months ago.
That's right. A little Lissandro, he's 8 months today, and some months ago last year, while he was still in his mom's uterus, so basically when he was still a fetus, doctors at Paris's Hôpital Necker conducted an extremely delicate operation on his brain to fix the vein of Galen aneurysmal malformation. Basically, he had a brain malformation. It was a very rare but essentially deadly condition, and this in utero operations have happened in the past, but this is the first time in the world that doctors have operated on a fetal brain. Its success even reaching the US, where a similar operation was later conducted on a little girl, Gavin. So some good news in the world of medicine.
Yeah, wow. Finally from you, a new world record. This will get everybody with itchy trigger fingers going. Solving a Rubik's Cube has been set the new record.
Yeah, his name is Max Park, and he is as USA Today says, he's just set a new Rubik's Cube world record. He's a 21-year-old who actually took to Rubik's Cubes as therapy for his autism. He solved a 3x3x3 Rubik's Cube in 3.13 seconds, surpassing the previous record of 3.47 seconds. So you can see him here. I think he's analyzing the Rubik's Cube, and then you'll see him a little bit later on solving it in, as I said, 3 seconds, which is really nothing, let's be honest. He actually also holds the Guinness World Records for being the fastest to solve the 4x4x4, 5x5x5, 6x6x6, and 7x7x7 Rubik's Cubes. So he's definitely an expert when it comes to all things Rubik's Cubes, I think.
That is incredible. I can't even take the stickers off and put them in the right places at the time. Ditika Laron, our World Press reviewer, thank you.